Hi everyone, I'm back with some more progress on the house. This time I have a relatively mundane task to do, sheathe the house in plywood. So far I haven't put much time into making the house look at all that finished outdoors. In order to do this I need to build up the outside structure on the exterior walls. According to my research, on the outside of the walls of the house there's a layer of plywood. This plywood, called sheathing, covers over all the studs and provides a flat surface to attach the house wrap and siding to later. In an ideal world, this plywood would be actually tongue and groove OSB, which is more dimensionally stable. But making scale OSB and cutting microscopic tongue and groove on the edges is not something I've been able to figure out, so more plywood it is. I've documented how I make plywood a few times already, but I figured I'd do it once more. It all starts with wood veneer. After unpacking the veneer, I cut it up into strips. To cut the veneer, I'm using my tin snips, which I found go through veneer quickly and leave a clean edge. Each strip is then cut in the other direction. For this strip, since it's 4 inches wide, it's cut every 8 inches. These larger strips, since they are 8 inches wide, are cut every 4 inches. This produces two types of rectangles. The first type of rectangle has its grain oriented side to side. The second type of rectangle has its grain oriented top to bottom. Throughout the many times I've made plywood, I've experimented around quite a bit with adhesives. I've found the best adhesive to use is a mixture of spray glue to clamp the veneer layers together temporarily, and wood glue to bond the layers together permanently. To make a sheet of plywood, I apply spray glue to one of each type of rectangle. I then apply a small amount of wood glue to one side. I align both plies and firmly press them together. And that's a sheet of plywood. Let's do that one more time. It takes a bit of time, but I made 24 sheets in about half an hour. Not too bad. I let each sheet cure overnight under pressure before building with it. Now time to sheathe the house. I'm orienting my wall sheathing vertically. Some sheets need to be cut. I use my tin snips for this. Nailing all these sheets in place is quite tedious. It's quite easy to bend pins. Also, notice how there's a shear line between the sheathing on the first floor and second floor. This is very purposeful. Typically, when constructing a full-scale house, you wouldn't do this. But I want to retain the ability for the floors to separate so I can continue to access the inside of the house. In many places, I needed to custom cut sheets of plywood around features like windows. I traced the back of the plywood to mark the shape. I cut it out. And then I could nail it in place. I also cut out a piece on the other side, too. One challenge was sheathing around the bay window at the back of the kitchen. This is because I already had installed a sheet of plywood behind the roof of the bay window, and this plywood could not be attached to the top floor. If it was, the house would no longer come apart. So I installed sheathing around it. The roof of the bay window was slightly challenging too. Lots of non-standard angles had to be cut into the sheathing. And the last thing I'm going to sheathe are the sides of the roof, which will have siding installed just like the rest of the house. The sides of the roof already have vertical members to attach to the sheathing, so this should be pretty easy. The roof pitch did add a bit of difficulty, but I used a similar approach as when I sheathed around the windows. Also, I sheathed this middle section, which will also have siding installed. I decided to wait to sheathe the top parts of the roof until later. I need to make one more batch of plywood first. The walls now are made up of 3 parts: the drywall, the framing, and the sheathing. You might be wondering how I'm going to get inside the walls, but the drywall is detachable, so I can still get it in the wall cavity and from inside the house. This will let me insulate and install utilities later. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you celebrate it, have a good Thanksgiving.